Well, what's going on, you guys? My name is Andre, and in this video I actually wanted to do a list of pros and cons of personal shops versus business shops, also known as Facebook shops, commerce manager shops. And I think this video is especially helpful for people who are just starting out or who are looking to start with Facebook Marketplace dropshipping and are not exactly sure where to start. Is it personal shops, personal profiles, or is it commerce manager shops? So without further ado, let's start. So I'm going to start with personal shops first. We can do pros, then we can do cons. And by the end of the video, I also want to do kind of a conclusion and give you guys the best strategy on the best way to start, how you should do it, and my strategy on how I would do it if I was starting out just now. So let's begin. All right, so pro number one on personal shops. So I would say pro number one is actually clean and user-friendly interface. I have to be honest here, out of so many different platforms that I have dropshipped on, that is Mercari, eBay, Amazon, Etsy, I still have to say that Facebook personal shops make it super clean and super easy to publish a listing and launch it within 5 to 10 minutes. The interface is pretty seamless. All you need are photos, price, description, item category, and that is it really. You just pick the shipping option and you launch it. It can be launched, and by it I mean any listing can be launched within 5 to 10 minutes if you are brand new. For me it takes about, I don't know, like 1 to 3 minutes to launch a new listing on personal shops. It's really clean, it's really easy, and I highly recommend starting with Facebook personal shops if you need a clean interface. It's really good. And on Commerce Manager, the interface, it is more complex. So I will be honest here, you have to dive a little bit deeper, you have to get used to it. There are way more tabs, the functionality is a little bit slower, but it is definitely worth to consider Commerce Manager shops, but the interface is not as clean and seamless as it is on personal marketplace shops. So be warned about that. All right, so pro number two for personal marketplace shop, I would say that would be how easy it is to appeal your account suspension. And again, like I said in my other videos, getting banned on marketplace is not really a big deal. Likely throughout your dropshipping journey you will get banned at least once, and I also have a video on how you can avoid bans, how you can minimize bans, so check it out. But anyways, if you do ever get banned on personal marketplace profile, God forbid, all you have to do is click request review, and typically you will be waiting either 30 minutes or few hours, and then by the end of the day, normally Facebook support would tell you that, hey, we have fixed the issue and we apologize for the inconvenience, and you will be back into the personal shop in no time. So that is a pretty big advantage. On shops, on the other hand, bans and restrictions are a lot more serious. What you will notice is on shops you can get banned for advertising restrictions if you get too many rejected items and if you don't work on solving those restrictions, or your page can often get banned for fraud and deception, and typically that ban happens if your page has like 0 or 20 or 30 likes, it doesn't have too many likes, it doesn't have organic presence, it's not an established page. Basically, it happens to people who have just created a page and converted it into Commerce Manager shop, and then even if you get approved for it, a week later this ban can happen. It happened to one of my shops, and it actually happened to one of my clients' shops. We were able to resolve both mine and client shop, but it's a very unpleasant restriction because it definitely can happen. You actually have to write a written appeal saying why you should not be banned. It's a lot more effort, and there is no guarantee that the appeal will work. Even if it does work, you can still get restricted sometime later. So shop restrictions are a lot more serious, and it's a lot harder to get out of shop restriction versus a personal marketplace restriction. So keep that in mind. And then that kind of brings me to pro number three for personal shops. That is how easy it is to get started with personal shops. Unlike on Commerce Manager shops, where you need to go through entire approval by Facebook bots that are not really too keen on getting your shop approved. On personal marketplace profile, all you need is again your social security number and your bank account to set up shipping, and you will need the social security number even later once you hit $599 in sales. So pretty much anyone can get started with Facebook Marketplace personal shops dropshipping right away. All you need to do is make sure you have the shipping option. If you don't have a shipping option, all you need to do is sell a few items that you don't need or do a garage sale. And then usually within 1 to 2 weeks, your personal shop would be eligible for the shipping option, and you can start listing items for a profit using eBay, Walmart, Amazon as your suppliers, and relisting them at a marked up higher price for a profit and make sales. So entry barrier is super easy, but keep in mind that, as I said many times, shipping option works in the United States, and I believe UK has started rolling out the shipping option recently for personal profile shops. So keep in mind that it is kind of an exclusive feature for US and UK markets, but the entry barrier is super low, which is nice. And pro number 4, which is kind of connected to the previous pro, you do not need to have a Facebook page in order to get started dropshipping on your personal marketplace shop. And again, if you are dropshipping on Facebook shops, you do need to have a Facebook page that you need to onboard onto Commerce Manager shops. So the onboarding process is more complex with shops, but on personal shops, you don't need any of that. All you need to do is click your little marketplace icon and then start listing items. Easy as that. All right, so another pro on personal shops, which is a pretty big disadvantage on Commerce Manager shops, in my opinion. On personal shops, you can list multiple photos within one click. On Commerce Manager shops, for some reason, you cannot list all photos within one click. You actually need to upload
photo by photo by photo.
So you need to do like 10 or 11 clicks, which doesn't make any sense given the scale of Commerce Manager shops. And also on personal shops, you can upload videos in addition to photos, and that feature is not available for Commerce Manager shops to my knowledge. So keep that in mind. Personal shops can have the video option, and they can easily upload 10 photos in a single click, making it a much quicker process to list items on personal shops versus Commerce Manager shops. So that is that. All right, and then last pro that I have in my list, at least for now, is actually streamlined buyer communication. And by that I mean you can easily go to your messenger on your Facebook profile and then click on the marketplace section of your messages, and you can see all messages from your customers over there. Versus on shops, not only do you have the inbox section in your shop where you have to deal with email responses from your buyers, which takes longer to resolve, but you also have to actually separately go into your business suite. And Facebook doesn't make it straightforward. You actually have to kind of figure it out yourself accidentally. But there are two sides of Commerce Manager shop communication. There is email communication in Commerce Manager UI inbox section, and number 2, there is business suite messenger communication, similarly to your personal shop, but it is a separate entity. You have to click and not forget to reply to your customer messages there. So keep in mind that business shops, you have to navigate throughout those two separate messaging entities, and on personal shops, it is very easy, very seamless. All you have to do is just click on marketplace messages and everything will be over there. So I think it's a nice bonus and makes it easier and for a cleaner communication. So that's another little pro. Now let's discuss cons of personal marketplace shops. So con number 1 is actually account suspensions, and they can happen a lot more frequently than Commerce Manager shops. Typically, I observed that I was banned at least 11 times in 2021 and already 3 times in 2022. And every single time it was a mistake. Facebook agents, or should I say Facebook bots, they pretend to have names, but at this point, everyone knows that they're bots. So every single time they admitted that it's a mistake. And on shops, if you do get a restriction, usually it will happen once. It doesn't happen more than once, so you either get a restriction or you don't get a restriction at all. I actually have 2 shops that have never been restricted since I started them in summer of 2021, and I had 2 shops that got restricted. I was able to unrestrict them, but they had a lot of bugs and issues. However, bans on shops happen a lot less frequently than personal marketplace shops. So I would say that's a pretty big disadvantage for personal shops, because bans can happen more frequently. That means you should be prepared to lose on your revenue if you don't get unsuspended quickly. But the good news is, which was a pro that I discussed, that getting unsuspended is relatively easy if you have the request review button. And if you don't have the request review button, make sure to check the link in description, because I included the magic form that will actually allow you to submit an appeal and get yourself reinstated. So that is that. And then con number 2, which also applies to shops in my opinion, but the entire process of dropshipping on Facebook is pretty manual, I would say. You really do need a team of virtual assistants, especially once you scale up to a level where you have 20, 30, 100 plus orders every single day, because you will find that there is not a whole lot of automation software out there. Yes, there is FBM Fox, there is Z-Drop, but in the end of the day, someone definitely has to be present and managing the operation to make sure that things are going smooth, buy messages are getting responded to. So in the end of the day, you cannot automate everything. You do need to have a human being managing the process. So I would say that is kind of a con, because on Shopify there are more tools that allow automation, such as automatic order processing, automatic order fulfillment within just 1 to 2 clicks. There is no such software with Facebook Marketplace dropshipping, at least not that I know of. I don't use FBM Fox, like I said many times before. I do prefer to keep my processes as human as possible to avoid account restrictions due to using software. So that is my personal take on it. So I think that is a con, that it is a pretty manual process, but it can definitely be solved when you have VAs, so keep that in mind. And then another con on personal marketplace shops is there is a seller fee that is present on each sale. There is a 5% seller fee, which is again not too bad of a seller fee. I think it's the lowest seller fee out there. I think Amazon and eBay and Mercari, they are well over 10+% seller fee after each sale, so it's not too bad. But on Commerce Manager shops, there are no seller fees until June of 2022. So that means you have a lot more room to make additional profit in the end of the day. So that is that. All right, and then another con, which is again going back to suspensions, you do have limited amount of attempts to appeal your ban. And interestingly, the system is broken, and I have been banned at least 14 times now. Like I said, 11 times in 2021 and 2 or 3 times in 2022, and I still have an option to appeal. But some people, including my wife's account, she was only banned 2 times and she no longer has an option to request review. The button is not there and it says the decision is final. However, if you use that form, you can still appeal and get yourself reinstated. But if you don't have that form and if you don't use it, well, you don't have an option to request review and you're out of luck. So it is a con, but it can be fixed with a form, so keep that in mind. All right, and then another con, which I think is the biggest con to personal shops, especially as of late, there is a lot less traffic and order volume on personal shops. And it seems to me that since July of 2021, shortly after Mark Zuckerberg announced that they are focusing on shops, Facebook, also known as Meta, purposefully changed the algorithm and how listings are served, and they are prioritizing shops more. And that means personal sellers are getting way less orders, way less clicks than shops. And that automatically means you can expect to have less orders, less traffic, less clicks on your personal marketplace listings versus shops. So it is, in my opinion, the biggest disadvantage with personal shops as of this video, but maybe they will change this in the future once they realize that this is kind of a mistake, in my opinion, because I think both kinds of sellers should get an equal chance of having a fair amount of traffic, whether it's shops or personal profiles, given the fact that they are making a 5% seller fee from personal sellers. So it doesn't really make sense to me why they would take away that big of a priority in search results from personal sellers, but keep that in mind. All right, and then another small con for personal shops, you will be getting a lot of silly messages, same exact questions from customers. Most of the time it's going to be,
is this still available? Is this still available? Is this still available? Is this still available? Is this still available?
I think at this time I probably have answered maybe 3,000 or 4,000 if they're still available messages. My poor VAs answer those every single day. But it definitely takes time and it's kind of annoying, but that's what Facebook Marketplace is most famous for, I think. These kinds of messages and these anecdotal questions that no one else will ask you on any other platform but Facebook Marketplace. And then it kind of goes back to Facebook page and being anonymous on Facebook Marketplace. If you are using your personal marketplace profile to dropship on Marketplace, well, you have to keep in mind that it has to be your first and last name, because if you use a fake profile, there is a chance that Facebook can ban your account because it's against terms of service to do so. So if you are dropshipping on personal shop, you have to be ready and you have to keep in mind that your first and last name will be visible to people. So don't do any sketchy stuff, okay? Don't sell body parts, don't sell weapons, or at least do so using your girlfriend's and wife's profile.
Just joking.
I hope no one from Mate is watching this video. Okay, and then there is another con for Facebook personal shops, and in my opinion it's a pretty serious con, because there are no appeals for chargebacks and there are no appeals for claim escalations. Well, technically there are, but they're so broken that almost every single time when a claim escalation happens, you don't get a notification and you don't get an email, which is kind of a scummy move by Facebook, because every single time in their official employee operated group, they claim that sellers should be able to appeal that. And of course, Facebook is so glitchy that their functionality is broken and you don't get notified. So you essentially are unable to appeal any claim escalation or chargebacks and you don't get notified. So you will kind of be losing money, and you might notice that you are losing money until you get your payout. So I think it's a pretty big disadvantage with personal shops. On Commerce Manager shops, you can actually appeal chargebacks. You cannot appeal claim escalations, but you can definitely appeal chargebacks all the time, and I think that's a pretty important thing to consider. All right, and last con that I have for you guys here in this list for personal shops is actually around features that are being distributed to sellers. And by that I mean beta features. And the way it happens is kind of unequal, and it's more of a lottery system. By that I mean some sellers have access to features that are not available to other sellers, such as interface changes or videos or seller dashboard. I mean, for me, it took like 1 year later to get a seller dashboard after everyone else had the seller dashboard. And it took for me almost half a year to get a feature that allowed me to sort orders by status and type buyer name into order filtering system. So it's kind of weird, but what can you do? That's what happens when you are dropshipping on another platform and not on your website, so keep that in mind. All right, now the moment that you guys been waiting for, shops. Let's talk about the advantages of shops, and let's start with pro number one. So pro number one, and it is in my opinion the most essential and the most crucial pro of shops, at least at the time of this video, is shops get a lot more order volume and traffic than personal shops. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, it seems that this change happened around June of 2021, and it has been the case ever since then. Facebook also tends to give shops a lot more Facebook promotions, such as 20% off or free shipping promotions for buyers. So that already means buyers will likely be purchasing a lot more stuff from shops versus personal sellers who are not eligible for these kinds of Facebook coupons or promotions. And to give you guys a live example, we have posted so many exactly same kind of items on personal shops, and then we have relisted the same exact items, same price, same pictures, same descriptions. Everything is exactly identical on shops, and every single time shops have outsold personal shops by a vast margin. And by that I mean an item on shops can be selling multiple and multiple times for months, versus on personal shop that same exact item might only sell once or 3 times or 6 times per month. And it is really unfair in my opinion.
Bro, please, bro, why you do?
Because like I said, Facebook makes personal sellers pay a 5% seller fee, and yet they're giving all this traffic, all this visibility to shops who are not even paying any seller fees until June of 2022. So we'll see what happens in June, I guess. Maybe Facebook will come back to the conclusion that both types of sellers should have equal distribution of views and orders, which I do hope will be the case, so that the whole traffic and order volume can be a little bit more balanced across personal shops and business shops. Okay, the pro number 2 on business shops is actually bulk change features. And by that I mean you can use Excel sheets to download your order history, and then you can re-upload the Excel sheet with tracking numbers, and you can essentially have yourself or task your virtual assistant to upload 20, 30 or 100 plus tracking numbers in just one upload, and essentially upload 100 plus tracking numbers in one single click, which is not a feature that is on personal shops. Because in the end of the day, Facebook had Commerce Manager shops for quite a while, and they definitely designed shops to be more user-friendly towards mass sellers who are dealing with a lot of orders. So there is that. And then another pro, which I think is very important for business shops, is the staff account access. And by that I mean anyone who has a Facebook account and an email, except VAs in Russia. I mean, they can access it because I have VAs in Russia and they have to access Facebook with a VPN, because you guys know what's happening there. Meta is blocked in Russia, so it's a little bit more hard for them. But in the end of the day, you can easily invite VAs into your shop without remote desktop or without VPS on business shops, which is not the case with personal shops, because on personal shops, if you want to have a VA managing your shop, you essentially have to give them remote desktop access or virtual private server, because if they log in into your Facebook profile from their country, there will be a chance that your entire account might get disabled, or you will lose your shipping option because Facebook might think that you are traveling to a country where shipping option is not supported. So keep that in mind. It's a very important thing to consider, because if you have a team of VAs and if you're a big seller, you should definitely start with Facebook shops, because you can essentially invite all of them into your shop without remote desktop or without VPS. So keep that in mind. And then, like I mentioned earlier, another pro for business pages is you can use a Facebook page, or you can rather dropship as a business without having your first and last name attached to your dropshipping business. So I think it's a pretty big advantage, because essentially you can have at least some sort of anonymity when you are doing this whole business on Facebook. So it's just a small pro, but it's good to keep in mind. And then, like I mentioned earlier, another pro, there are no seller fees at all until June of 2022. That means all you are spending your money on are your COGS, cost of goods sold, unless you're running ads and unless you're paying your VA fees. So essentially it leaves room to make a lot of profit with shops versus personal shops. And then another pro, which I think is pretty important, is you can actually connect your Shopify store to Facebook Commerce Manager store, because Meta has partnered with Shopify for quite a while, and essentially you're able to onboard your Shopify to Commerce Manager store. You can handle your orders with Shopify, you can make listings with Shopify, you can do everything with Shopify without logging into your Commerce Manager store at all, which I think is a pretty big advantage, especially if you are not a huge fan of logging into your Facebook every single time. You can just connect your Shopify and have your entire VA team sit on Shopify and do all the work there. So I think it's a pretty important pro to consider. And like I said earlier, on shops, you can also appeal chargebacks, which is not the case on personal shops. You cannot appeal chargebacks on personal shops. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section, but on shops you can definitely do that every single time. And I also made a video where I show you guys how I appeal my chargebacks, and I also attached a template in that video, and I have reattached the template in the video description right here, so you guys are welcome, check it out. But yeah, keep that in mind. You can do that, and chargeback appeals are really important, because not only do you get charged a $20 fee on every single chargeback, but you also are withheld the entire balance for that transaction for the chargeback. So keep that in mind. All right, now let's go to cons of business shops. So like I mentioned earlier in the video, con number 1 are the restrictions on shops. They are very serious. If you do get suspended, what will also happen, like I mentioned earlier in the video, you have to submit a written appeal, and even if you submit a written appeal and they re-enable your shop, most of the time you will see that your marketplace sales channel is likely paused on the review. And when that happens, well, most of the time your shop is going to be dead. There will be no sales, because once your marketplace sales channel is paused, that means no organic traffic will be coming in into your store. And I did make another video, link in the description here and here, you can check it out. There is a way to re-enable it, but it works only a quarter of a time, and I'm not even sure it works now, because Meta has fixed the trick with user permission manipulation, where one can enable the shop with another user login. So you can try that, but there's no guarantee that it will work. So if you do get restricted, chances are
you're done.
Kiss goodbye to the shop. And then another con, as I mentioned earlier in the video, the approval process is a lot tougher and harder for shops. It used to be very easy in summer and fall of 2021 when I started. It is now a lot harder to get approved for shops. What I'm seeing so far, you do need to have at least 100 likes. Ideally, you need at least 500 likes, and you need to have some presence on the page. You do need to make posts ideally every single day, or you need to have at least once or twice a week. What I'm trying to say, you do need to have some organic presence for your page in order for it to get fully approved and not restricted for Facebook. And then even if you do get approved, a lot of new sellers are seeing that their marketplace sales channel is currently paused until mid 2022. And now I have been seeing that Meta automatically re-enables shops, or rather marketplace sales channel, earlier than mid 2022. But again, there's no guarantee that your marketplace sales channel will get re-enabled right away. And likely you cannot start selling and enjoying that free organic traffic right away, even if you do get approved for a shop. So that's a big con. And one note on this, some users on Facebook, they have this little toggle arrow feature on their personal marketplace profile that essentially allows them to easily switch from their personal page to business page, and it seems the approval process is 100 times easier for them. Even if they don't have an authentic presence, they can get approved easily for a shop, and their marketplace sales channel is enabled automatically right after they get approved, so keep that in mind. And then another con that I mentioned earlier in the video are chargebacks. I have seen way more chargebacks happening on shops than on personal profiles, and the good news is, like I said, you can appeal those, and I have a template and a video that I made, like I mentioned earlier in the video, so you can check it out. But be prepared that you will be dealing with way more chargebacks on shops versus personal. It's a good thing that you can appeal those, but it's unpleasant because the balance will be withheld and there will be a $20 chargeback fee, like I mentioned earlier. But at least you can appeal them, right? So that's good. But it kind of is natural if you think about it, because if you have so many orders on shops versus personal, the chance of getting a chargeback is kind of higher. So I guess it all works out in the end of the day. Okay, and then another con are item disapprovals, because I'm seeing that items tend to get disapproved way more often on shops versus on personal profiles. You can request review on shops, which is good, similarly to how you can request them on personal marketplace profiles. But very often the appeal can get denied, and then you can either work with a live chat agent to get those manually approved, which will take time, but then you kind of risk getting your shop restricted if you have too many item disapprovals. Or you can wait and get that item approved if you really are confident that it's a hot selling item, so keep that in mind. All right, and last con that I have for you guys here is actually fake reviews, because I have seen that so many buyers were able to just leave a fake review without ever purchasing an item, and it doesn't make any sense to me. It's just mind-blowing how Meta thinks it makes sense. Maybe they're trying to weed out scammers, but it just doesn't make sense, because your competitors can do the exact same thing by reporting your listing, but it doesn't change the fact that anyone can just leave a review under your listing without ever having to make a purchase. And I think it's a little bit better now, and Meta kind of fixed it, but I still have some reviews that don't have an order ID attached to them. And what that means, buyer has not even purchased anything, and they just clicked leave a review on the page, and they just left a fake review either to hurt my business, or a competitor tried to hurt my business too. So be prepared to see those. It's not the case on personal shops. While it's true that people can kind of leave a fake review, but they need to have at least some messaging history with your store on personal shop. In order to do that, they need to send you at least 3 messages on personal shop in order to rate you. But on shops, anyone can rate you without having to purchase anything from you, so keep that in mind. So that's all I have for you guys. I know this video is a little bit longer than my average video duration, but it is important for everyone to really realize what they are getting themselves into in personal versus business shops. So to sum it all up, if I was to start from scratch today, what I would do, I would start with personal shops for sure, because it's really easy to do so. I would start listing items, I would start making sales, I would see what items are working, and while I'm doing that, I would start opening a new Facebook page, or I would see if I have an existing page that is older than 30 days, then I would try to buy ads for that page to get at least 100 likes for the page, and then convert that page in the e-commerce manager shop. And this way I would have a personal shop with orders, and then I would have a business shop approved and ready to go, so that I can transfer my listings from personal shop into a business manager shop, which is, by the way, a functionality that is offered by Facebook. You can easily transfer listings from your personal shop into your business shop with one click on mobile. And some desktop users have that feature, the ones that have that little toggle and arrow feature. So keep that in mind. That's what I would do. So in the end of the day, like I said, you should start with personal for sure, but at the same time, you should build that presence on your business page and create a shop as soon as possible, so that you can continuously scale and get more orders, and then hire your virtual assistants, and then hopefully make this your full-time passive income business. That's what I have been doing, and it has worked out very well for me so far, and I do hope it will work out for you as well. So with all of this said, I do hope you found this video helpful. If you did, do consider smashing the like button, subscribing to the channel, hitting the notification bell. You guys know what to do. Thank you so much for your time, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.